What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the numbers. This is the main event deep dive for UFC Vegas 36. We have Derek Brunson going against Darren Till, a fight that I'm really looking forward to. And I am here, as always, with Uncle Weezy. Going to break it down, going to get into some stats and see what we can find here. Uncle Weezy, what is up? And are you looking forward to this fight?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, man. We got that kind of classic striker versus grappler matchup here. And then we got some, interesting differences in how these guys try to win fights and, the stylistic clash therein that we're going to have to explore here to kind of figure out who we like. So it's a good main event. Derek Brunson is in a lot of good fights. Darren Till tends to be kind of low volume and cautious, let's just say. But the guy's got a ton of power, and so does Brunson. And Brunson's got, Brunson's got a ton of fights, and I think half of them have ended in the first round. So just about anything can happen here. We're going to have to really cover all the angles, but I'm ready.
I'm ready as well. I think it's a very interesting matchup to break down for sure. Before we get into it, if you guys can please leave a like on the video. Also subscribe if you have not yet to the channel so you not miss out on all the other content throughout the week. My full card breakdown and prediction video will be out Tuesday morning. Going live as always Friday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. And then Saturday, 1 hour prior to the prelims for the new show I'm doing called Best Bet, where I bring a couple guys on and we give our best bet for each fight. And one of those guys is Uncle Weezy as well. He will be joining us Saturday. Cannot wait for that. But I say we get into it, and we're going to start with Derek Brunson, who is 37 years old. He is 6'1" with a 77-inch reach, going against Darren Till, 28 years old, 6 foot, 74-inch reach. So Brunson's going to be older by 9 years. Brunson's going to have a 1-inch height advantage and also a 3-inch reach advantage as well. We will take a look at the last few fights between the two. Derek Brunson is on quite of a streak here. He has 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He lost to Israel Adesanya by knockout in a fight where he got dropped 3 times. And then he came bounced back against Elias Theodorou, got a decision win. And then after that, beat Ian Heinisch by decision, knocked out Edmund Shabazian as a pretty big dog in that fight. And then just recently beat Kevin Holland in a 5-round decision. As far as Darren Till, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, had a decision win over Stephen Thompson, a submission loss to Tyron Woodley, a knockout loss to Jorge Masvidal, a decision win over Kelvin Gastelum, and then a decision loss to Robert Whittaker. So Darren Till, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Derek Brunson, more on a nice streak here, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Uncle Weezy, let's start it with the experience stats here.
Yeah, for sure. Just a couple interesting things there is that this is a Southpaw versus Southpaw matchup. So you don't get to see that very often. So we'll have to see what the stylistic differences are there. I'd like to see, evaluate maybe which one of these guys is more active with their jab, because it's going to work more than they're used to it working against an orthodox fighter, where the opponent's right hand will be right in the face of their jab hand. So it'll be interesting to see which one of these guys gets their jab going more on the feet. But Brunson definitely the more natural middleweight here, as Till used to be a bit of a size bully down there at welterweight, and he's fought most of his career at welterweight. That's important. We talk about 8 out of his 10 UFC fights have been at welterweight. So Derek Brunson, the more naturally sized middleweight here, he'll probably be the bigger dude. He's an inch taller and has a 3-inch reach advantage. But yeah, the experience numbers, we got Brunson with 7 more fights, but Darren Till with about 15 more minutes of cage time. Derek Brunson has been a professional mixed martial artist for almost 3 more years than Darren Till. But, both of these guys have been active at about the same rate. Both of them fighting a little over 2 fights per year. So they've been very active. When we look at how much of their careers they're fighting at the UFC level, for Till, it's just under 50%. But for Brunson, it's almost 2/3 of his career that's been fought at the highest level. 8 more UFC fights for Brunson, just a little more cage time for Brunson, but a 13-5 UFC record, all compiled in the middleweight division for Derek Brunson. That is incredibly impressive. For a guy that's never fought for a title, that, to be 13-5, that is really something special there. Now, Till is 6-3-1. in his 10 fights, but he's got just as much time in the UFC cage as Brunson does. So, neither one of these guys is going to wilt under the bright lights here being in a main event. This is guys that are definitely used to it. And when we talk about how these guys finish fights, we see that Derek Brunson finishing 55% of his overall wins by knockout and 14% by submission. So we got about a 69% finish rate for Derek Brunson, while it's a 67% finish rate for Darren Till, as he's finished 12 of his 18 pro wins inside the distance. But if we look at UFC finish rates, we do see that Derek Brunson is the one that's finishing at the UFC level at a much higher rate, as he's got a 60% finish rate at the UFC level, while Darren Till only has a 33% finish rate, all by knockout for Till, while for Brunson, it's almost exclusively by knockout, but he does one of those finishes is by submission as well. And then if we look at how these guys lose fights, we see that Darren Till has been finished in 2 out of his 3 losses inside the distance, once by submission, once by knockout, while for Derek Brunson, when he's losing fights, it's inside the distance and it's by knockout 5 out of 7 times. So, when we look for paths here and we look at those loss numbers and we look for potential over-under bets here, we're going to notice that, Darren Till, 56% of his pro wins coming by way of knockout. So that means 10 out of 18. He's got 10 professional knockouts, and Brunson's got 5 of his 7 losses coming by way of knockout. So there could be a path to victory here for Darren Till by knockout. And then we look at Brunson, we see a 69% finish rate and a 60% finish rate in the UFC. So, the fact that Till's been finished in 2 out of his 3 UFC losses tells me that there's a pretty good chance, this being a 5-round fight, both of these guys having some pretty nice power, that we could see this fight finishing inside the distance. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I completely agree there. I mean, you take a look, decent finish rates between the two. Darren Till around 67%, Brunson around 69% there. And they both get finished quite a bit. Darren Till finished in 2 out of his 3 losses, 1 by knockout, 1 by submission. And then Derek Brunson has been finished a ton. 5 knockout losses for Derek Brunson there. And Darren Till is definitely a capable finisher, finishing over half his wins by knockout, like you said. So we'll talk about the lines for the over-unders at the end of the video. But yeah, I definitely see a path where there's a very good chance that somebody probably does get finished in this fight. So now we'll get to my favorite part of the video for this one. It's going to be the striking stats, Uncle Weezy. They really, really stick out to me, and they're really weird in a sense. But I'm curious to hear the striking stats for this fight here.
For sure. So, I mean, on first glance, you see some guys that have very similar striking accuracy, pretty similar striking defense. The power numbers are a little bit better for Till than they are for Brunson, but they're both, showing definite UFC power. So, the difference, though, is Derek Brunson, while his fights are only taking place at striking range, about 60% of the time, he's throwing 7.59 significant strikes per minute. While Darren Till, his fights are taking place at striking range 80% of the time. So we're expecting some more volume. And even though he's spending 80% of his time at striking, and for Brunson, it's only 60%, we are seeing Darren Till only throwing 4.92 significant strike attempts per minute. Extremely low volume. And his opponents are throwing 7.26. So his opponents are throwing 50% more volume than he is. So, that's a big thing that we have to keep in mind here, is that even if you do land the bigger strikes, when your opponent is throwing 3 strikes for every 2 that you throw on the judges' scorecards, you could potentially have a problem if you don't get your opponent out of there. So, Darren Till is incredibly low volume. And one thing we will notice when we kind of look at the advanced stats a little bit later on, in his loss to Tyron Woodley, which was a fight that went over 500 seconds. It was late in the second round that Darren Till got finished. Darren Till landed zero significant strikes and only offered 6. Okay, that's in 9 minutes. He only threw 6 significant strikes in 9 minutes in a fight. There are household arguments that have higher significant strike ratios than Darren Till had in that fight. So we've got serious problems here with Darren Till having this little, he tends to kind of almost hypnotize his opponent too, because he stands in that very strange karate stance. It's not the usual stance that we see in MMA, and he kind of stays at a very safe distance, and he doesn't throw a whole lot, and he kind of tries to coax his opponent into that type of a fight. And he's able to do it because he throws just enough power at you when you do come in to make you really think twice or even thrice about coming in and lunging in for takedowns, or, being sloppy and entering against that karate stance in a way where you're not defensively covered. So, Till is a very unique fighter. He's a guy that can thrive with a very low volume, almost like an Alistair Overeem, because Overeem was very low volume as well. But the thing about Overeem was he would land with like a 75% accuracy. Now, Darren Till's accuracy is 46%. So he doesn't really, it's not like he's just throwing incredibly low volume because he hits everything that he throws. No, it's not like that. He's only landing 2.27 significant strikes a minute, and he's getting landed on 2.99. So he's getting outlanded. But he is showing a pretty good striking defense at just under 59%. Both of these guys are getting knocked down. So both of these guys are showing power, and both of these guys are getting knocked down. But we do see Till with a higher power percentage than Brunson, and we see Brunson with a higher chinniness percentage than Till. So the numbers are telling us, just on past performances, that Darren Till is probably going to be more likely to knock down Brunson than the other way around. However, we have to keep in mind that Darren Till is only knocked down welterweights. He's got 2 fights at middleweight. He's got 8 fights at welterweight. All those knockdowns came against other welterweights. He has not yet had a knockdown in 2 fights against Robert Whittaker and Kelvin Gastelum, who are good strikers in their own right. So no shame in that. Just saying that now that he's up here a weight class higher, maybe the power won't translate like it did when he was weighing in 4 pounds heavy, over and over again as a welterweight. So, on paper, it does appear that Till's going to have the striking advantage. Even though he's low volume, we don't see Derek Brunson anything just jumping off the page there. Everything that Brunson does well, statistically, Till does just a little bit better when we're looking at these striking numbers. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I have some serious concerns about the striking numbers of Till. We talked about it before we went on, and the most significant strikes that Darren Till has landed in a fight was 49. 49 significant strikes, and he's had 10 fights in the UFC. Like that is just crazy to me. And he's winning a lot of these fights as well. He has a decision win over Gastelum. He landed 36 significant strikes. A decision win over Thompson in a 5-round fight, lands 38 significant strikes. A decision win over Bohan, 3-round fight, 49 significant strikes. Draw against Dalby, 49 significant strikes, and it's just crazy, man. Like I have some serious concerns because what if Till doesn't knock out Brunson? What is the fight going to look like then? Brunson probably does outland him, and what are the judges going to be looking at? Are they going to be looking at the volume of Brunson, or are they going to be looking at Till probably landing the harder shots? So I have some serious concerns about the volume. You touched on the numbers a little bit. Darren Till does land at 2.27 significant strikes per minute, and he absorbs more than he lands, which is something I never like to see, absorbing 2.99 for a negative significant strike differential of 0.72, whereas Brunson, a little higher volume, landing 3.46, absorbing 2.72 with a positive 0.74 significant strike differential. So, me personally, it's really hard for me to ever bet on Darren Till, especially as a favorite, because if he does not get that knockout, it's probably going to be a very close fight. He's probably going to get outlanded in this fight just because of how low volume he is. So that really does scare me. But yeah, I'm curious to hear the takedown stats for this one, as I do think it could play a factor in this fight.
Let's talk about volume for just another minute.
Good.
We saw a classic low volume middleweight with good power last week. His name is Smiling Sam Alvey, who was not smiling after that decision. Okay. That is such a happy-go-lucky guy to see him screaming obscenities at the at the judges. Even though I did not cash that ticket that I had on Alvey, it kind of made me laugh out loud to see him that mad. Anyway, Sam Alvey, right? This is a guy who's notoriously low volume, as we know, but he lands 3.2 significant strikes a minute and offers 7.31 a minute. And that was going into the Turman fight. So even we see a guy like Alvey, who's actually at range, basically the exact same percentage of his fights that Darren Till is, which is at 80%. And even Sam Alvey, who's notoriously low volume, is landing almost one more significant strike per minute than Darren Till, and he's throwing 2.5 more significant strikes per minute than Darren Till. So that's just to kind of put it into perspective how low volume Darren Till is and how big of a problem that could potentially be. Because if you're going to be laying that money on Darren Till, saying, I think he has a striking advantage, well, then think about the optics. If this fight does stay at striking range, right? Let's say for the entirety of the fight, let's say that Brunson just isn't able to take Till down, right? Yep. Still, Darren Till is going to have to offer more than 5 significant strikes a minute. Otherwise, it's going to be a greasy split decision because Derek Brunson's throwing 7.5 significant strikes a minute. And that's exactly almost what Darren Till's opponents are throwing. So if Darren Till is getting out-volumed, and you think his win condition is that he either knocks out, Brunson on the feet or just wins a striking-based decision, keep in mind that the optics are not going to look good for a guy that does not throw a lot of volume. But now we can move on to the grappling now that I'm done harping on Darren Till's volume. Grappling, this is a striker versus grappler matchup. We talked about it, Brady. We got one guy here that has attempted 93 takedowns in his UFC career, and another guy that's attempted 12. Okay, so Brunson, 29 of 93 on his career takedown attempts as a middleweight. That's a 31.18% takedown percentage. He's averaging 2.93 takedowns per 15 minutes. Very good, with a 38.41% control time percentage. And then we look at the control time against for Derek Brunson. He's got a 93.75% takedown defense. He's allowing 0.1 takedowns per 15 minutes. That means this guy would have to go 10 decision fights in a 3-round fight for somebody to get one takedown against him. That's how good he's been with his takedown defense in the UFC. And he's only yielded 2.18% control time. So basically, almost like a 17-to-1 ratio of him out controlling his opponents. That's spectacular. So Derek Brunson's offensive wrestling and defensive wrestling numbers are impeccable at the middleweight division. Darren Till has only attempted 1.2 takedowns per fight in the UFC, but he's gotten 5 of them. So he is an efficient wrestler, getting 41.67% of his takedowns. He's averaging about a half takedown per 15 minutes and 7% control time. He's obviously a guy that prefers to strike, and he's been successful keeping his fight standing 80% of the time, which is what you want to see from a striker. You don't want to see a striker in 50% control time positions. They're probably going to lose that fight. Anyway, Till has shown really good takedown defense thus far in the UFC, but we also have to keep in mind that 8 of these 10 fights are against welterweights, not middleweights. He's going to be defending takedowns from a guy that's bigger than him on Saturday. So Till does have 83% takedown defense. He's getting out-controlled almost at a 2-to-1 rate by his opponents, but like we mentioned, only 20% of his fights are taking place in control time positions, so it's not that important. So yeah, really good takedown defense for Till. The question is Brunson going to be able to keep up a wrestling heavy attack for 5 rounds if that's how he wants to win this fight? because Darren Till has shown a really good job of defending takedowns. And let's just take a quick look at the advanced stats here and see how he's defended takedowns at 185 from Gastelum and Whitaker. And we see that in those two fights, Whitaker and Gastelum were a combined 3 of 17 on their takedown attempts. And this is at the middleweight division, 3 of 17. So that means his takedown defense was right there in that, just above 80% range. So he really has had really good takedown defense, not only as a welterweight, but also as a middleweight. So, the question is, Brady, if we feel that Derek Brunson's win condition here is to use the wrestling like he has in his last 4 fights, or if we look at his last 5 fights, we can see 12 takedown attempts, 8 takedown attempts, 10, 9, and 7. So in Derek Brunson's last 5 fights, he's had 20, 30, 39, 46 takedown attempts in his last 5 fights. So he's averaging about 10 takedown attempts per fight. So if we feel that that is Derek Brunson's win condition, is he going to be able to get takedowns at a high enough rate to win enough minutes and then therefore win enough rounds to eke out a greasy decision here, Brady? What do you got for me?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because he was able to just do that against Kevin Holland, right, for 5 rounds. But there's a big difference between, Kevin Holland, poor takedown defense. And in that fight, Kevin Holland really didn't make an effort to get up. But you see Darren Till get taken down. He tries to pop right back up right away. So I think he's going to have a lot harder time taking down and holding down Till than he did like in the Holland fight. And in that Holland fight, like Derek Brunson, like really sketchy on the feet, Holland had some really good shots and hurt him at one point, it looked like even. So I don't think that Derek Brunson, if he comes in here with a game plan of I'm going to wrestle Darren Till for 5 rounds, I don't really think he'll have success in doing so. I think he can maybe, get a takedown here or there, but to do it for 5 rounds, I'm kind of leaning towards probably not. I mean, he was very, very tired towards the end of that Holland fight. So in Holland, like I said, no resistance. There's going to be some resistance here. But yeah, Darren Till, very, very good takedown defense. I do think he can keep it on the feet. But, what I'm seeing is, man, there's past victory here for Derek Brunson. A couple of them. There's a couple of them. I mean, taking the fight down to the mat, mixing in the takedowns, landing more volume. But the problem I'm having is just the chin of Brunson. But, as far as the takedowns go, Weezy, I do think that Brunson going to have some success. I just don't think he'll be able to, keep that success going for 5 rounds.
Yeah, sorry, I was away from the mute button there. It's we talk about it over and over and over again ad nauseum, but we do it because it's true. Offensive wrestling is exhausting. There's a big difference between being able to offensively wrestle at an MMA pace for 3 rounds and for 5 rounds. And then you throw into the fact is how good defensively is the guy that you're trying to take down, because if they're not good defensively, it's still exhausting. But if they're good defensively, you really have to be economical with your takedown attempts. You have to make every one of them count. You can't be shooting in from way out. You can't telegraph them. You've got to use your strikes to set them up. And Brunson is getting better at that, even at his age now, because he's been training at Sanford MMA. And these guys are absolutely creating killers over there. And we've seen that Derek Brunson's on a 4-fight winning streak. Now, the guys that he's beating are, nobody's going to put you in the Hall of Fame for beating Holland and Shabazian and Heinisch and Theodorou. But, if you add up their records, those guys have a 26 and 13 record in the UFC. So, he's beating good guys, Darren Till, a little bit better competition and just in terms of the win-loss record than most of those guys. And plus in terms of the guys that Till has beat, also very impressive. But let's look at these strength of schedule numbers here. In terms of the metrics that I keep, we see a very similar, almost identical overall strength of schedule difference between these guys. 1.79 ratio of win-losses to Brunson and 1.73 for Till, 13.1 fights for a Till opponent, and 13.5 for Brunson. If we stack the wins up side by side, Till's wins maybe just a little bit better than Brunson's, but they're almost identical. And then if we stack the losses up side to side, we would say that Brunson has lost to slightly better competition than Darren Till has, because the ratio of win to losses of Brunson's guys that have beaten him is 2.45, while for Till it's 1.88. That being said, they're both losing to studs with over 15 average UFC fights, and a win-to-loss ratio right around 2 for both of them. So both of these guys have fought, really good fighters. But then if you just look at the last 5 names on Darren Till's record in comparison to the last 5 names on Brunson's record, with Till you see Whitaker, Gastelum, Masvidal, Woodley, and Thompson. All those guys have either been a champion or challenged for a belt. While you've got, for Brunson, it's Adesanya, Theodorou, Heinisch, Shabazian, and Holland. And I mean, he got his ass shaved by Adesanya. He's on a 4-fight winning streak against guys that are, upper tier middleweights, in Shabazian and Holland and Heinisch and Theodorou. But, Theodorou's been cut. Heinisch is on a bit of a skid. Shabazian's on a bit of a skid, and Kevin Holland's defensive wrestling has been exposed. But if we go to the advanced stats, just to kind of even go a little bit balls deeper into these particular histories, we can see that the guys that Brunson has beat over his career, they have a career record of 102-78. And we see names like Chris Lieben, 12-10, Brian Houston, 0-2. Lorenz Larkin, a good striker in his own right, 5-5. And here's the important thing I want to bring up too, is that Darren Till's a really good striker with really good defensive wrestling, who keeps the fight standing and uses his power to win, right? But some of the names on this list are similar types of guys to Darren Till. When you look at Lorenz Larkin, great striker. Sam Alvey, good striker. Uriah Hall, fantastic, flashy striker. He's beaten all of these guys. Lyoto Machida in the 2017 version of Lyoto Machida, not the rotting corpse of Machida at that point, but still, tail end of career Machida. And Edmund Shabazian and Kevin Holland, both good strikers, and he uses wrestling to kind of nullify them. So yeah, he's beaten some good strikers. And then you look at the guys who have beaten Brunson, and you're talking Israel Adesanya, Jacare Sosa, Anderson Silva, Robert Whitaker, Yoel Romero. All those guys either title challengers or title holders. So absolute studs. And then if we look at the names for Till here, we see wins over Wendell Oliveira in his UFC debut, Justin Ayari, Bojan Velikovic, and then wins over Donald Cerrone, Wonderboy Thompson. Very, very impressive win there, in my opinion. And Kelvin Gastelum. And then the losses are to Robert Whitaker, George Masvidal, and Woodley. So the one thing that these guys do have in common is that they're really only losing to people who have fought for a title or people who have held a belt. And then he's got a draw against Nicholas Dalby back in 2015. So the strength of schedule is pretty similar. Yep. I think a big difference is in the measurables here for this one, Brady, because we got Brunson being the natural middleweight, and we got Till being the guy that could really no longer make welterweight, but he's more of a tweener than a true middleweight. And then if we look at experience, I would say that, Brunson's got the experience advantage as well in terms of finishing. They're both getting finished and losing, and they both have a very similar finishing percentage and how they finish fights. If we look at the striking numbers, I think with the eyes, we see Till's a better striker, and the stats tell us a little bit of the same as well, but they're very close. We see that Brunson's going to be the much more active grappler, but Till's got great takedown defense and the ability to keep the fight standing. but Brunson's grappling numbers just, in the middleweight division, 38% control time for, 2% control time against, 29 takedowns for, 1 takedown against. I'm giving Brunson the grappling advantage. I think he's the bigger guy. I think he's got some experience advantages here. The finish stats are even. The strength of schedule is even. And the striking stats are slightly in favor of Till, I would say. It's a close fight, but Darren Till's the favorite here.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, we talked about this fight for about 30 minutes now, and sounds to me like this fight is very, very close, right? Like, this fight can really go either way. Do you favor, the power of Darren Till? Are you banking on him getting that knockout? Or do you think that Brunson can mix in the takedowns here or there, outland Darren Till in terms of the volume? Very, very close fight, because again, like, what happens if Darren Till does not knock out Derek Brunson? Is he going to look like a minus 180 favorite? I don't think so at all. Like, with how low volume he is, with Brunson having the volume edge, with Brunson having the wrestling edge, if Darren Till does not knock out Derek Brunson, it's going to be a very, very close fight. But yeah, we take a look at the odds here. Darren Till did open up as a minus 130 favorite, and he is currently minus 180. Derek Brunson opened up plus 110, and he is currently plus 155. For me personally, I will not be betting minus 180 on Darren Till because of all the reasons we mentioned. I mean, if he does not knock out Derek Brunson, it's going to look like a very, very close fight that probably can go either way. So if I was to bet Till, it probably is going to be the knockout prop, which is sitting at plus 220. Like we mentioned, Derek Brunson has been knocked out a handful of times, 5 times. Darren Till is finishing over half his wins by knockout, tons of power. And I could see a situation where maybe Brunson does have success early with the wrestling, and maybe he does slow down as the fight goes on, and maybe Darren Till can like catch him late or even catch him early. We talked about that Brunson, a lot of his fights, they end in the first round. So maybe Darren Till can catch him early, maybe he can catch him late, but I'm very curious to hear, Weezy, which way you are leaning, taking the odds into consideration here. Darren Till minus 180, Derek Brunson 155. I personally do think the line is a bit off here, but curious to hear your take on this one.
After going through all the stats and kind of looking at it from all the angles here, I think stylistically we see why Till would be a favorite, because he's flashier on the feet and a lot of great knockdowns, and he's fought just as good a competition as Brunson. But when I'm starting to look a little bit more when I handicap fights is, who's got the better minute winning potential? That rolls over into round winning potential, and that rolls over into fight winning potential. And when you talk about the grappling advantages that Brunson has here, and just the numbers, the evidenced numbers in an 18 fight sample size, to outcontrol your opponent's 38% to 2% in an 18 fight sample size, to out take down your opponent's 29 to 1 in an 18 fight sample size, I see Brunson being able to win minutes with the grappling. And guess what? I can see him winning minutes in the striking, because Till is so low volume that the optics of that are bad. I got to tell you, just from a very clinical, statistical way of looking at this, I'm seeing a lot of value on Derek Brunson here at plus almost 150 in this fight. And just because he's got a great ability to win minutes and then rounds, and Darren Till's low volume, if he doesn't catch a guy, and who knows if that power is going to translate up here at 185. These guys are used to people that hit harder. So I think it's going to be a close fight, man. We see that a lot of these statistical categories are very close, and I think it's going to be a close fight. And if we want to talk time props too, Brady, we love looking at how these guys lose fights. Well, let's talk about 10 combined losses for Derek Brunson and Derek Till. We've got 7 of them coming inside the distance. Now, when we're talking 7 out of 10, the implied probability takes us up to what? Minus like 233 there? Cheeky. Anything below minus 233 on Fight Doesn't Go could be a decent just on a very rudimentary way of handicapping the implied probability for what line we're going to be looking for there? Do we have a fight doesn't go line here?
Yeah, so we actually have the 4.5. We have the under at -170 on Bet Online, the over at +140. But if you head over to FanDuel Sportsbook, they actually have the fight doesn't go to decision at -154. And on Five Dimes, the fight doesn't go to decision is at -130. So yeah, I like that quite a bit. Either way, I can definitely see a finish here. Both guys, like you mentioned, have been finished. Darren Till, 2 of his 3 losses, one by knockout, one by sub. Derek Brunson knocked out a ton of times, 5 knockout losses in his 7 losses. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you there. Does that kind of stick out to you? The -154 on FanDuel, like the five dimes -130, that sticks out to me. I wish I had access to that line, but does that stick out to you?
That really does stick out to me. This is a 5-round fight.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
you got 25 minutes, and then you got a guy who's landing. He's got probably 5 career UFC knockdowns in Derek Brunson. Darren Till's got about 5 career UFC knockdowns. Both of these guys, not only do they knock their opponents down, Brunson's getting knocked down 5 times in his UFC career, and for Till, it's 3. So we definitely got a chance for somebody to get knocked down or out. We also have a chance for Derek Brunson to go for a ton of takedowns unsuccessfully, gas out, and then get finished. There's a lot of ways that this fight could finish, and I would be interested. I just think, just from a very rudimentary way of handicapping a line for a fight doesn't go, I think anything, -200 or better, you're probably getting a little bit of value there, especially in a 5-round fight. So yeah, the fight doesn't go sticks out for me, and the Derek Brunson money line sticks out for me for value on Derek Brunson. And then, like you mentioned very astutely, Darren Till's win condition feels like a knockout here. And that knockout prop is a great way to take your implied probability from something like, he's got to win this thing almost 67% of the time to pay off at these odds. While the knockout prop where it stands right now, so he's only got to do it about 28% of the time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a pretty good call by you there on the Darren Till knockout prop. So yeah, there's some great bets here. We got some angles here to potentially make some money on this fight.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I do think that Till knockout prop is way off. +220. Like that's it's pretty much how he wins the fight, right? Like you have 5 rounds to work with, 5 rounds to find that shot, and it's a tough close fight. I don't love the line. I'm with you. I do think the value is on the Brunson side, but as far as a pure pick, I'm curious to hear what you got. For me, I'm going to go with Darren Till. Like I said, he's going to have 5 rounds to work with. I can see a scenario where Brunson does have success early with the wrestling, but I don't think he'll be able to keep up that pace. He did slow it down a ton. He was very tired in the Kevin Holland fight, in a fight where Holland gave basically 0 resistance, did not try to get up at all. I think Darren Till will give some resistance, and he will try to get up and will get up. So I can kind of see Derek Brunson, slowing down. And, Derek Brunson, I don't think he has the best chin, and Darren Till has a lot of power. So I'm personally going to pick Darren Till to win by knockout, but I hate the line, -180 in a fight where, it's going to be very, very, very close if Darren Till does not find that knockout. So for me, I'm going to pick Till to win by knockout. I'm going to look to bet that Till wins by knockout +220. And then I'm also going to look for the fight doesn't go to decision, which does cover both sides as well, which is -154. So Uncle Weezy, what are your final thoughts for the fight, and what is your final pick?
So I'm going to go with Derek Brunson on my final pick, just because I kind of see this fight as very close to 50-50. Therefore, I'll pick the guy that has the line value. I'll pick the guy that I think can win minutes and rounds, and then therefore maybe win a greasy decision with that more well-rounded game in terms of being able to go to the wrestling, but also showing some knockout power and the striking in his own right. Yeah. So I'm going to go with Derek Brunson. I also love the fight doesn't go to decision here, because I think if Derek Brunson loses, it will be inside the distance and by knockout. If you like Darren Till to win this fight, I would encourage you to bet that knockout prop. I think that's most of his win condition here. But yeah, I think it's very close to a 50-50 fight. I'm very interested to see how it plays out. And I'm going to pick Brunson, but like I say, I think it's just about 50-50. really looking forward to this, and I think there's a lot of angles to make money on this fight, and I hope we covered damn near most of them.
Yeah, I think we did. Went about 40 minutes. And yeah, Darren Till did open up minus 130. I kind of agree with that opener a lot more than the minus
Me
180.
too. Me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And it looks like there's still money coming in on Till. So maybe if you do like Brunson, maybe wait till the end of the week. Maybe wait till you get in the week, and maybe you get him at maybe plus 160, plus 170, plus 155 right now. So, yep. Very, very close fight. I'm going Till. You're going Brunson. But I think we made cases for both guys. It's a close fight. So that is about it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys can leave a like, that'd be much, much appreciated. Also subscribe to the channel if you have not yet, so you not miss out on all the content throughout the week. Go check out me and Uncle Weezy's stream we did on Sunday on Pub Sports Radio, Stat Diggers, where we go balls deep into every single fight for the card. Gave one here for Darren Till and Brunson. We did the same thing for each and every fight, just in a little bit more of a condensed version there. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers. You can follow Weezy on Twitter, MMA Weezy. Weezy has a ton of content on his channel on YouTube as well throughout the week. Uncle Weezy, check him out there. Go hit the sub for Uncle Weezy there. Let's get him to 1K subs in the near future. That'd be sweet there. So that is about it for me and Weezy. Good luck for UFC Vegas 36, and let's see what happens with this matchup.